In Yemen, there's the war in the West Papua, there is the war in the Democratic Republic of Congo, which is fueled by the greed of very well-known, very public mining companies who buy cobalt and coltan to sell on to make mobile phones, which we all use at some point. I'm not blaming people for using mobile phones. I'm blaming these companies for exploiting people in the Congo, often child labour. Taking the cobalt out of the Congo and using military means to achieve it. And then you look at the situation in Gaza. 40,000 people have already died in the last 6 months. 40,000 lives lost. Anyone going to sleep tonight in Gaza, maybe in a home, maybe not in a home, maybe sleeping rough, maybe sleeping in tent, whatever, genuinely do not know if they're going to wake up again. Do not know if a bomb is going to land on their campus and kill them. Watching their children being operated on in makeshift operating theatres with no anaesthetic when doctors are desperately trying to save their lives. And people dying from diarrhea, from dehydration, from starvation, and much else. And only a few kilometres away, there's plenty of anaesthetic, plenty of medicines, plenty of water, plenty of food, plenty of all the basic things you need to survive and get life. It is a deliberate act of war against the people of Gaza to either kill them by bombardment or to kill them by deliberately created shortages. And when Western politicians in the USA and Europe say, well, we want the aid trucks to get through. Well, if you do, it might be a good idea if you stop bombing the aid as it comes in by supplying the bombs to Israel or to Lebanon. And so I want to say a huge thank you to all those that have joined in all the demonstrations about Palestine. It's frustrating, I know, but we're going to carry on doing it as long as it takes and keep on turning out in larger and larger numbers. I also want to say a big thank you to all those students all around the world, particularly in the USA and Europe. Not only demonstrated, but also set up the encampments in so many universities, and then had to defy the attack on free speech and attack on the right to demonstrate, and also, I may say so, those overseas students whose whole status in this country and university position is put under threat because they've expressed their political rights in a democratic society to dissent from what their government is doing. Solidarity with those students and what they're going for. Now, the new government has a big choice before it. They could just carry on with this stuff of basically following Biden or whatever the US says and do nothing. Or they could say, we are going to call for a ceasefire and we're going to stop the supply of weapons to Israel and demand the withdrawal of Israeli forces both from Gaza and the West Bank and justice for the Palestinian refugee camps that are in all the neighbouring countries. And they could do an awful lot about social injustice. But if you box yourself in on an economic argument where you're not raising taxation at the top or taking the poorest people out of taxation, where you're not putting more money into helping people on benefits such as large families that are restricted in what they get because of the two-child policy, then after a few years, people are going to say, what's the difference? What's the change? Where's the improvement? How's my life improved because of this? And when people are disillusioned with the political system, they don't necessarily turn to the left. That's when the siren voices of Le Pen and the likes of her, and in this country Farage, become very loud and sadly very effective. So there will be an anti-racist demonstration at the end of this month, far beyond that. There will be a lot of activity on all the issues that were brought up. And so we have to learn from each other and learn from history. Learn the way in which racism is designed to divide. And also learn that the strange way in which many older people in this country were taught history actually frames an awful lot of their attitudes in general. The slave trade, for example, was not abolished because William Wilberforce woke up one morning and thought it was a really bad idea and he wasn't right. He went down to Parliament and introduced a bill to abolish the slave trade and then thought, oops, sorry, all these slave owners are going to lose a lot of money, so paid them a load of compensation. It was abolished and ended because of those that laid down their lives in the uprisings in Western Jamaica and in many other places, all over the places. It is about understanding the history of how fundamental change comes about. And that is really why we're here, why having great shops like Bookmarks, why having events like this is so important. We learn from each other and we're empowered by each other. I've represented my constituents and my community for the past 40 years and I'm very proud of that. I'm also humbled by what I've learned from people. Homeless people, rough sleeping homeless people, people that sweep the streets, professors who happen to live in the area, people that made their homes there from different parts of the world and learn from them. Never being so up yourself and so arrogant, you can't learn a bit more, often from the most unlikely sources. So it is about bringing people together and involving us, and I am very hopeful that the growing political movement all around the country, it doesn't have a name yet, but it's there. It's a movement for social justice. It's a movement for environmental sustainability. It's a movement for peace. It's a movement in solidarity with workers taking action to get decent wages. It's a movement for social justice. It's all of those things. And it's very, very powerful. That's why we're here. That's why we work. That's why we march. That's why we demonstrate. And that's why we are going to make sure there is a society built that's worthy of the next generation by our actions. Thank you.